Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the debut record from HJELVIK, Welcome to Hell, out November 20th on Nuclear Blast. The album has 10 tracks and is 39 minutes in length. From a structural perspective, this is an album that offers a lot of duality to the listener. If you look at the big picture, the record flows perfectly from the first song to the last song. It's very fluid, it's very dynamic. The songs almost interact with each other, not necessarily musically, but how they feel to you as a listener. You feel very connected on a track-by-track basis, and you really don't want to get off this ride until you get to the end of the record. That is the kind of album that you have. It has a straightforward, easy-to-digest overall structure. But when you look at the individual songs, they pull you in different directions, both musically and how they were constructed. The glue that holds this album together is the overall theme of Norse mythology. You have an album that touches on 10 different myths, but when you put them all together, you can see that bigger picture, and that's really the glue that holds the structure in the album together. When you look at the soundscape of this record, this is a guitar-driven album. There's no doubt about that. All the other elements are on the back seat. The guitars determine the sound, the experience, how fast the track is, the aggression, intensity, melody. Everything is dominated by where the guitars are and where they're going. And I love that aspect of it. I also love the fact that this album, it's not overly produced, it's not clean, but at the same time is not raw and gritty. It's somewhere in between. The guitars are somewhere in between. Another aspect of the guitar sound on this album is it doesn't matter the influence on each track and where the songs are going, what genre is dictating where the track is moving to. They're all very balanced as far as the quality is concerned. You don't get any dips whatsoever from the first song to the last song as far as the quality control, as far as the solos, how epic they are, how over the top, how produced, how elaborate they are. All of these elements change as far as the output, as far as what you get to listen to. But how they're constructed, how they're put together, that is high quality level work from the first song to the last. Like I said, very balanced approach all the way through this record. Another element of this album that really unifies the record outside of the Norse mythology theme is the vocals. Because as the sound is changing, and it has to change, because if you're talking about 10 different stories on 10 different tracks, you really have to create soundtracks to those stories in order for the characters, the emotion, everything that's built into it to come to life. So you need that aspect of it. But from a vocal perspective, you have another unifier element at hand. It's another piece of the puzzle that really holds it together. Like I said, the Norse mythology is definitely the glue that holds the album together, but the vocals are not that far behind because there's not many changes to the vocal approach from the first song to the last song. There are a few changes here and there as far as tone, using backing vocals on some tracks, but overall, when you look at the big picture of this album, what you get with the first song is exactly what you're going to get all the way to the end as far as vocals are concerned. And I love that stability of it, because if you have a record that has already so much diversity in sound, in structure, in approach, you really need a couple of things that hold it together, that allow the album to feel as one and not just a compilation of songs. On this record, like I mentioned before, the Norse mythology theme is definitely one of those elements, and the vocals are the second. Overall, I really love this record. I love what it has to offer. I love how it's put together. And more important, I love the fact that you can put it into a genre or a category. This is an album that will define itself for itself. You can't really have a preconceived idea when you go in to listen to this album, because you're going to be disappointed. Because there's nothing that you could have thought beforehand that you're going to get from it. This is an album that's very new, it's very fresh in how it's put together and how it sounds and how it comes across. So if you sit down and you're expecting a folk album, you're expecting a black metal album, you're expecting a folk black metal album, whatever the case might be, your expectations are going to be defrauded. You're not going to get exactly what you want, because that's not what the record is about. This record is about itself. It's about you listening to it and experience it and enjoying it, and forget about genres, forget about preconceived ideas. That's the best way to listen to this album, with a clear mind and no preconceived thoughts on what it should be. As far as songs are concerned, I want to mention 3 tracks that I absolutely love on this record, and I want to start off with Thors Hammer. The guitar riff on this song is absolutely delicious. It has a little bit, very little, a little bit of folk in it, but it's a very delicious sounding guitar riff. The vocals have some backing vocals, and that adds presence and volume. I don't necessarily feel like it adds heaviness because the vocals are already heavy as it is, and I don't really see it adding more heaviness on top of it just because you have backing vocals, but it definitely adds some presence, it adds some volume, and it adds some texture. The aggression of the vocals really adds a contrast to how the guitars sound and how melodic and how groovy at points they are on this track. There's definitely this duality of aspects happening between the two that works very well for how this track flows. The solo on this track matches the intensity of the vocals. It really didn't take, in my opinion, any element from the sound itself, but it really took the intensity and aggression that were in the vocals, and then it transported into the track musically by having a solo that just goes absolutely everywhere. It's over the top, it's explosive, it's aggressive, and it almost adds a blistering tempo to the song. It makes the song feel like it's getting faster, heavier, and moving in a much stronger direction towards the end of the track. I love that change because it makes the track more dynamic, it makes the track more interesting, so it feels like the song is broken into two: what happens before the solo and what happens after the solo, almost like you're preparing for war, and then finally you're in battle, and it went from 0 to 100 in the matter of seconds. That's how this track comes across. Next, Glory of Hell. This is a real rock driven song. I felt like listening to it almost like at times, not throughout the whole song, but at times it felt almost like if AC/DC was to record a Viking themed metal song, this is perhaps how it would sound like. I kind of had that sensation going through this track. The guitar sound really penetrates through the song. It really has this important aspect of it that it just finds every nook and cranny that the track has, and it just fills it with sound, with melody, with grooviness, with power, with intensity. And I love how the guitars sound on this track. The vocals bring a lot of aggression and intensity as well to the song. They add a sense of purpose as this track progresses. The chorus sees the vocals bring in some melody. The vocals really change, at least the perception that I had listening to this track is that the tone in the vocals changes from the verses into the chorus. It's a song that has a very balanced approach as far as the music is concerned between the two. You really don't feel many changes happening as the song moves from verses to chorus, verses to chorus. The main change that's coming across in a more predominant way, it's really the tone and the vocals. And then you get to the solo. The solo is absolutely breathtaking. Classic rock and roll solo turned all the way to 11. It's the best solo on the record, and the record has amazing solos front to back, but this one just takes the cake. It's over the top, it's explosive, it's melodic, it's powerful, it's heavy, it's intricate, flourished. I mean, I'm running out of adjectives to classify this guitar solo because it was just absolutely brilliant. The track becomes a completely different song. It magnifies the track, it explodes the track, and it makes this one of the best songs on the record. Last but not least, Ironwood. I love the tempo that this track has to offer. The two previous songs had more of a methodic approach. This one has a little bit more of a sense of urgency in how it comes across and how it sounds. The riff has a contagious melody that really permeates throughout the whole track. It's almost like a fragrance, like this aroma that just levitates above the track itself, and it stays there from the beginning all the way to the end. The chorus adds a little bit of a somber vibe, not too much. It doesn't really make the song feel darker, but it adds a slight somber vibe to the way the song comes across. And it helps it give a little bit of soul, a little bit of life into it. At the halfway point, the song explodes, vocally more than musically. I really felt that way listening to this track. It feels like something happened there and the song just goes in a different direction. Like I said, vocally, not necessarily musically, because musically I felt that the track was very constant and balanced all the way through, and the dynamic changes that this track has to offer to the listener are all buried in the vocals and how they come across in the first half of the song versus how they come across in the second half of the song. It allows the song to feel differently, even though musically is staying very balanced all the way across. One of the elements of this track that I really enjoyed is how the song ends. The song starts to close off and it morphs from a guitar melody into an acoustic melody. The same melody, it just morphs from one instrument to another. Perfect closing for this track. It was absolutely glorious. It happens in a very gradual way. You almost don't notice until you're already there. I love this construction. I love this closure of this track. It was so beautiful, it was just magnificent. Once again, really showcasing the incredible guitar work that went into this album. This is really a clinic as far as guitar playing is concerned. This is it. This is HJELVIK, Welcome to Hell, out November 20th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.